So conformity assessment is a set of rules and mechanisms to actually demonstrate to the market that a product meets those requirements.
That might entail testing it, or measuring it, or inspecting it, examining it, pulling it apart, comparing the product in front of you with documentation that's been provided that it's supposed to comply with. Quite a range of activities.
Conformity assessment is a broad term that's used to cover everything from inspection to laboratory testing to product certification, personnel certification, management systems certification, and the list goes on. So conformity assessment is really looking at what are the requirements for demonstrating that a product, process, service, whatever, meets expected needs.
Conformity assessment is a range of different techniques. It includes testing, it includes certification, it includes inspection. All of these services are applied at various points in the development and life cycle of products and services to really tell people whether that product or service meets the standards that the market expects from that particular set of goods or services.
It gives a measure of protection to the consumer, and it also gives a measure of protection to the manufacturer, because the manufacturer can make sure that they're conforming and making their products to a minimum standard in a level playing field environment.
Fundamentally, it's around assurance, confidence and assurance that the product meets the requirements. It's not just the manufacturer that says my product complies. There's an independent set of resources that have tested and assessed that product and demonstrate that it complies, not just as a one-off, but generally on an ongoing basis.
It gives a level of confidence to the end user that a product meets the requirements of a standard and they can have confidence in that product.
The consumer needs to understand that the product they're about to buy and use for its intended purpose is actually safe to do that. And without some assurance of that, then they're buying blind.
Some of the risks involved in the conformity assessment process are firstly that there is fraudulent certification out there. I think another risk is the fact that some people have products tested but then actually provide to the market a different product. So it's very important to make sure that there's ongoing surveillance and compliance of the product with the original prototype that was tested or certified.
JAS-ANZ was created by the Australian and New Zealand governments to support trade between both countries and with third countries. And we operate as part of a global network of similar organisations in other parts of the world. And through that network, we exchange information, we exchange people, we provide for common methods to be applied to assessing products, services, processes for whether they conform to standards.
Yeah, NATA's role is to deliver confidence in testing that is undertaken within Australia. An individual consumer isn't really in a position to test every product that they purchase, so they're relying on someone or some process to assure the quality and safety of the products that they're purchasing. This will often be underpinned by testing, and if the testing is done in Australia, it may well be done in a NATA accredited laboratory.
Accreditation gives you that additional level of confidence. If you don't have a report from an accredited lab, you can say, okay, what do I need to find out to be sure that this lab's competent?
I think accreditation is extremely necessary, both for certification through bodies like JAS-ANZ and for test laboratories through bodies like NATA. And the reason I say that is because you do need an impartial, independent organisation that can oversee the practices of both certification bodies and test laboratories to ensure that they're operating the way they should. I think the regulator's role in conformity assessment is one whereby they have to introduce a regulatory framework that is robust enough to ensure that products that need to meet specific requirements, especially when we're talking about safety, that framework is robust enough to ensure that the products that are released to market are not only compliant, but they're safe to use.
So for our builder members on this one, we're looking for this product meets the standard that it says, and what product, and so then be able to say, okay, I'm using this product, it's fit for purpose, it meets the relevant requirements that I need to. That's the first part to it. Then we're trying to look at what is the limitation scope of use to ensure that our builder members will use it as per what the product is intended for. So trying to get that it meets the requirements that it says, and it meets what the code requires that product meet, and then from there about having it really clear about what's the scope, application, any limitations on the use of that product, how it then needs to be installed to meet how it's been certified and verified, and then take it from there.
Primarily, they need to deliver confidence to the certification body and the end user. So for the test report, the certification body has to have the confidence that the test report is providing the evidence that he needs. But for the end user, the certificate is there to provide confidence that the product that end user is going to purchase or acquire actually conforms with the standard that is appropriate for its use.
Confidence. In a word, you're going to make a lot of decisions for your business based on what comes out of the test laboratory and what goes into the certification process, and potentially your business depends on that test report being reliable and accurate and appropriate.
For builders, we want to be able to go and trade contractors, we want to be able to go to the hardware store and buy a product, and that product is fit for purpose, and we have that confidence that that product does have that fitness for purpose. As I mentioned, we're not the product experts. Our scope is then using it in the correct manner and using it as per set out in its plans and as set out in its specifications and its detailing.
Test reports provide the evidence that the certification body uses to provide their certificate of conformity. The test report itself will be linked back to a standard or specification, and so once the certification body sees a test report which provides the information that it needs, then the certification body can have that confidence to issue a certificate of compliance or conformity.
That gives the manufacturer confidence, it gives the builder confidence, it gives consumers confidence that that's actually there's a lot of rigour in that system.
They provide information to the user who might be certifying a product or just needs to understand what it is that the characteristics of the product are.
Testing and certification has become much, much more important in recent years than it has previously. And the reason for that is because we're so much further away from the people that supply our goods and services. In Australia, in New Zealand, goods and services that we take for granted can come from the other side of the world. And so what testing and certification do is bring the quality, characteristics, features of those goods and services so much closer.
It gives a level of confidence that the product has been tested, and it's been tested against a known set of criteria, and that product would not be certified if the test results didn't indicate that the product met the requirements of that standard.
I think the market benefits from testing and certification in that it provides an extra level of assurance that products that are released to market are compliant, and generally if they're compliant, they're safe. I do say generally because there are circumstances where a product could be compliant, but there could be an installation issue that makes the operation of that product unsafe. So it's not so much a compliance issue with the product, it could be an installation issue, but at least if you start off with a compliant product, it reduces the risk of a safety issue.
Australia has some fairly high expectations of products and that they will do what they're supposed to do. We invest a lot of money in them, we invest our trust in those products, and so, you know, we deserve to, you know, we deserve to have the right products and know that they're safe.
Because it does have such a detrimental effect on the economy, on the industries, and on the quality of people's lives and buildings.
I think it's fairly, you know, it's a fairly pragmatic thing that you should be able to go and purchase something from a responsible supplier, and that product, if it says it meets X standard, it meets it. It shouldn't be that hard, really, should it? You know, but you know, that's that confidence that we would ensure with, you know, as part of certification and testing.
At the end of the day, people need to know that if they buy a product, they're going to be safe using that product.